Hello everyone, this is Tim from Commerce Weavers and welcome in another episode of our educational series about Sylius. Today we're gonna talk about cross-border e-commerce and how Sylius helps you sell international. There are plenty of ways to go about this, but if you really want to have full control over your offering for every country and region, there is hardly any better way to go for an open source e-commerce platform like Sylius. In this episode, we will go through major challenges with e-commerce expansion and learn how Sylius addresses them. I've listed 8 different challenges and questions that you should answer before going international. First of all, is your law firm ready? There are plenty of compliance and regulations to meet not only in European Union but in US and many other countries. Second, have you analyzed local preferences? People like to buy products and services in different ways. Every country has some specific methods for shipment and payment that are unique for the region. Better check it before you go to this market. Have you consulted your accountant? Because you might sell products from just one legal entity from your country of origins, or you might like to launch several different entities per every country you sell in. Will you translate your website or just leave it as it is? Or maybe you're gonna choose one language, major one like English? This is something you should also define. The fifth point, integrations, especially with local marketplaces. Believe me or not, but Amazon is not the only marketplace out there. For example, in Poland we have Allegro, which is absolutely number one. So better check what is popular. Customer service. Have you wondered if you are going to hire a person with every language that you operate in? Or maybe just AI bot that's gonna answer all the questions in every language? With modern technologies, you might also go this way. Operations and fulfillment. Are you gonna sign one contract with a global carrier operating in every country? Or maybe several different contracts per region because they have better fees? Finally, point 8, so SEO. A little bit connected to what I said about translations. So do you want to have a mixed language content or just one specific language per every subpage? Think about it. Now let's dive into details. First of all, localization. Translating your website is not everything. You might have thousands of translations, but first of all, are they accurate? Is there any AI that actually crawls and searches for mistakes? Because, for example, from Poland, there is a very interesting model called BLIK used by our friends from Sylius CMS. So basically, if you want to have everything translated, but you don't want to spend too much money on a certified translator for every language, you could risk this solution. It's very precise, and like all learning models, it's learning fast. So every month is better. The thing is that Sylius as the e-commerce platform, of course, allows you to translate every piece of your website depending on e-commerce, like product variants, some descriptions, simple landing pages. You have to know that it is not an advanced CMS. There is a content plugin to Sylius that you can use, but just in a second you will see what I'm talking about. It's not a very complex tool for managing content. Another thing is pricing. You can't just calculate one-to-one the currencies. For example, can you imagine the price like 18,43 euro? It's better to have 18,99, for example, right? So if you have one product that is fetched in various currencies, you might like to adjust the decimals and make it look good for every market. Addresses. The thing is that in various regions you have states, cantons, lands, and various demands also regulated by the local government to provide a specific way of writing the address. So not every tool on the market gives you the full flexibility to change that accordingly to the region that you are selling into. With Sylius, there is no problem with that. Now let's have a look how can you actually configure the localization in Sylius. We've talked about currencies. So in a configuration panel, simple name, you can have and see every currency that is possible to be added in Sylius. And thanks to the fact that Sylius is using Symfony bundles that are fetching all the possible currencies in the world, you can just see that there is like an endless menu to choose from. So going back to what is already configured, You can see, for example, that euro is here. And then once you have all the currencies selected, you can go to exchange rates configuration and create a specific exchange rate. For example, with ratio of 4. The source currency is euro and the target currency is Polish zloty. Let's create such a currency exchange rate. Another thing which is definitely necessary when you're going cross-border is defining the locales. So the languages that your store is operating in. As you can see, you can create any locale you like from any language that is also defined thanks to some Symfony library that Sylius is using. There is literally no language that Sylius wouldn't be able to fetch. Of course, it depends on open source translations because not everything is fully translated, but you can even see how many different English dialects is there to choose from, as well as French, of course, colonialism. Okay, you could probably figure that if I'm configuring currencies, exchange rates, and locales, I also need to have countries. So if we have Australia here as the first country and Australian dollar as a currency that you pay in this country, you can also see that for each country, I can also define the province. This is exactly what I said before, that you have states in America, you have cantons in Switzerland, you have lands in Germany. So we have province for Australia, and in the Sylius frontend, once you are addressing an order, you can see that when I'm selecting Australia, I have the province automatically added to be fulfilled. Another way to have localization in Sylius in action. Finally, when we have everything configured, we can go to the channel setup. A channel is the heart of Sylius. This is literally the way you are selling your products. Before, people were thinking in websites, but for many years we have mobile apps, we have digital kiosks, we have different way of selling. So for this demo, we have prepared just one fashion web store channel. And what you can see here, apart from its name, host name, and some theme enabled, you can see countries that this channel is configured for, which means that when we go to the addressing, we will never see any other country that is not selected before in the administration panel. So depending on the rules of your store, people from this specific channel will see only the list of the countries that you have defined before. You might have a need to fetch just one country or don't fetch any country at all, because if we limit our operations only to Poland, we're gonna see just cities to choose from and there is no point in pointing country. In the channel setup, you can also define the base currency and the other currencies that are possible to choose from in the channel. You also have a tax zone and tax calculation strategy, but we'll speak about them later. Now, finishing the topic of localization, please have a look that Sylius provides a translation for every product variant. You have basic description, long and short, but you can also provide it in different languages. These languages are, of course, the ones that you have configured before with the countries and everything else in the configuration panel of Sylius. Same goes for the attributes and every other product information. Now, let's talk about taxes. If you're selling in EU, you need to have VAT system in place. If you're selling in US, you have sales tax and also economic nexus. In Switzerland, every canton can have a different tax. So if you don't want to get crazy about it, you either have to integrate a tool like Avalara or TaxJar, so a third-party application that is constantly crawling all the tax changes and regulations and providing the exact tax for the country that you are selling in, or you might have everything configured in Sylius, because there is no limit here. You can literally put every number to every tax and make all the calculations necessary in the administration panel. Let's have a look. So every tax rate has a specific tax category assigned to it. And in the name of the tax rate, it's a good practice to already put the number of the tax rate to make it easy for your shop operators to actually administrate. And once we go into the tax rate configuration, we can see also the zone that is used for the specific tax rate and the calculator, which is default or decimal for the purpose of this demo. We can also define whether the tax is included in the price or not. here you have to be careful, because if you include it in their price, you need to inform your customers very well what is included. And very nice stuff that you can actually change the start and end date of every tax rate calculation for your store, because if you know that some regulation is coming up, for example next Wednesday, no problem, you can already set it today. One more important thing for this configuration is the concept of zones. So in Sylius you can create zones that are not just countries, they are whole regions or continents. For example, here we have USA and rest of the world. I can easily imagine European Union and the rest of the world, or any other scenario that is right with you. When we edit United States, we have a name, but we also have a scope. And this scope can either be just for shipping, or for shipping and tax, or just for tax. So all the rules applied to the zone are going to be applied accordingly. Here you can also define the members of the zone. So if for some crazy reason Donald Trump makes an annexion of Mexico, I can have a Mexico as a United States zone. That's controversial, so let's forget about it. I hope it never happens. Another super important thing about your international operations is your payment. Do you provide all the methods that are popular for a specific region? Have you, for example, considered that the most popular method in Germany, apart from cash, is PayPal and cards? In France, for example, you have carte bancaire, if I'm saying it correctly. Apart from Visa and MasterCard, everybody is having this operator for cards. What is more, in the Netherlands, 70% of all B2C transactions are going through Ideal, a very popular payment method in this country. For example, in Poland, we are proud to have BLIK, so a method that is nothing else than providing a code from your mobile to confirm the operation. The same thing you can see in Switzerland as Twint and in Spain as Bizum. The fun fact is that all countries and all operators started to collaborate to have one pan-European mobile payment method. This is crazy good and I love it personally, but if you have never sold anything to Polish market, you have to integrate BLIK. And there are basically two ways to go about it. You can either have it within a local payment operator integrated in your system directly. For example, we are partner of TPay, an excellent operator in Poland. Or you can use some global aggregates like Molly, Adyen, or Stripe, for example, that have all the methods in one system and one panel. Obviously, for you, if you sell in various countries, it might be easier to have it all in one. But the thing is that the big players add big provisions. So you have like two provisions for the global player and the local player to pay in every transaction. You always have to calculate what is better for your business. Now, let's have a look into Sylius again. I have prepared the checkout of our demo for TPay, this Polish payment partner, and you can see all the methods already fetched here. There is research that shows clearly that if people don't see the logo of the payment method that they trust, like PayPal, they would probably don't do transaction at all. In Poland, if I see BLIK, I am happy because I know I can pay quickly and safely. So I have to go further to complete the payment, and basically I can even put the BLIK code directly in the checkout, which is like a level 0 integration, which also gives you reassurance that less people will bounce from the checkout. From the administration point of view, you have every payment method configured here in the payment method section, obviously. So for example, if we have a look at Google Pay, we see a specific URL. We can even add an image that would represent Google here, and also all the secret tokens and Google Merchants ID that have to be added to make the connection stable and safe. Of course, you can even add descriptions to the specific method for specific channel in specific language. So if I have German here, I might have a different description for German Google payment than for Polish Google payment, for whatever reason. TPay is one thing, but you might also have a look on the demo of Elesto, so a specific B2B template that is provided by Sylius using their Sylius Plus premium features. One of the interesting things here is that it natively integrates Molly. So if I select Molly in the payment and the checkout as a customer, I can see everything that Molly provides, including the ideal thing that I said is popular in the Netherlands, but also all the other things like Satispay, for example, that is also another regional method that you would have to learn if you go to the specific country. Okay, shipping. You can really lose a lot of money if you do not prepare your operations of fulfillment and shipping properly. You can have a local courier shipping your product from your hometown to abroad, but that's probably as expensive and not necessarily the best way to go. Or you might sign a global deal with DPD, GLS, or UPS, right? Everybody knows these brands. And once you have this contract signed, you go again to your administration panel of Sylius and you decide about your shipping methods, their names, their zones, and whether they are enabled or not. For example, a standard shipping method here for the demo purpose is configured, let's start from the bottom, with this amount of money. So in this Elesto demo, for every shipping that you're gonna do in the standard shipping method, you will pay this, and this will be added to every order. You can also define on which channel should it be present, because for example, DPD might not serve customers in Poland and they might serve in Germany. This is exactly according to your contracts and your business rules. Please remember that if you don't see something here in the administration panel, it's really easy for Sylius developer to add a specific rule or logic. This is what makes Sylius different as an open source e-commerce framework than, for example, a software as a service like Shopify, where you can't choose this exactly to the way you need. You also have a calculator to select from, which you define, like flat rate per shipment or flat rate per unit, a tax category, electronics, for example. You also define minimum delivery dates, maximum delivery time, and also the zone that it operates in and the position in the checkout. To confirm what I just said, we have an electronic device in the checkout and we have the estimated shipping cost of 414 euros, exactly as we defined in the admin panel. Another thing that you can notice here is the warehouse that the product is coming from. So why do we see this exact warehouse here? When you go global, or at least cross-border, you probably face another problem that you can send all the products from one warehouse in your country, or you can open another warehouse to make the operations cheaper, because the closer it gets to the customer, the last mile is easier. So in Sylius Plus, thanks to the multi-source inventory plugin, you can manage many stocks, not just one, as in standard Sylius. You can change the number of products that are available in a specific warehouse, but you probably never do it manually. You have some integrations with warehouse management systems, ERPs, or order management systems. Everything goes automatically. But the most important thing is for which channel is your warehouse enabled. So in Poland, I want to have a Polish warehouse because it's located in Poland. Obvious. For Germany, I might have Frankfurt warehouse, which is basically operating in the German channel. Of course, there are dozens of things I haven't touched speaking about cross-border. And let's make it clear, Sylius is not perfectly ready out of the box. You could see there are some things you could configure, but you have to also remember there's plenty of features that have to be developed just for you. I don't deny there are software as a service platforms like Shopify that provide even more features to be more personalized for every country. However, you have to remember that with open source e-commerce framework like Sylius, there is no limit for you. So whatever payment method you want to add, whatever specific rule per country for your shipments, whatever warehouse you want to add, you can always do it. And now the question is, if you already have your e-commerce. If yes, you can try to upgrade it and start selling abroad, or you might like to consider the migration to something more elastic like Sylius. Once you think about migration, you can go for a big bang, which means you basically start building a new application that is in parallel to your current e-commerce, and in a specific moment you just close your previous store and start a new one that is already ready for international sales. Another major strategy, and probably more recommended, is a strangler thick pattern. So a pattern in which you migrate a small part. So you just start a new store, let's say in another country, and you slowly migrate step by step all the operations to this new one. And finally, you end up with the migration of your major e-commerce operating in your country of origins. Still wonder what to do and don't know how to tackle this topic? Contact us and we will gladly advise you and consult every e-commerce challenge you might have, including going cross-border. Thank you very much and see you next time!